thing that I saw back in about 1971 that, you know, it's the old business thing, if you see a need, fill it. And that's what I did. And the company, from the very beginning, has always been dedicated to music education and promoting local musicians, teaching, and our service. And that was the need, and that's the way we filled it. Larry Hayes was my partner at the time. We started the business. We're together about 3-4 years. And I remember sitting on the stage of grade schools and playing guitar and banjo and singing folk songs to the kids, because we were out just showing the love of music. And Larry and I did a lot of grade schools at that time, and literally we'd go in, they'd fill the auditorium, and we'd sit on the front of the stage. Actually, we wouldn't sit up on top of, we'd just sit on the front of the stage, and we played music, and we did about 15-20 minutes of music, and that's where we got started. I remember years ago when the River Festival first started, that a lot of people won't remember this, but because it's been so many years ago and I'm old, but we had the world's largest guitar and banjo band, and we toured the festival as a roving act, and we had about 65 or 70 musicians, but they were all students of ours because we've been really into education. And so we would play underneath a tree with, if you can imagine, 65 people carrying their guitar and banjo, and then we would move to another tree in another part of the festival. Finally figured out that people were walking, so we really didn't have to move, that we could just stay in one spot, but generally we'd find a hillside, and we deemed it the world's largest guitar and banjo band, which it was big. And then started doing a duo and a trio as a roving act at the River Festival. But a lot of that, once again, goes back to, well, even at the time we were doing a bluegrass parking lot jam session in front of the store out in our parking lot, and we'd have 50 or 60 musicians in small groups of people inside the store or outside, and you'd get 5 or 6 musicians together, maybe introduce them, and so they'd have a group going, and so maybe you had 5 or 6 people playing. But that I've got pictures on our wall that shows that, and the nostalgia of having the parking lot picking session, and then up on our front steps, then we had a sound system set up, and then we'd have 5 or 6 of the more experienced musicians that would go out and perform something, and that would go from 6 to about 10 o'clock at night, and it was just really a lot of fun. But we were always just so involved with the education part of music. 36 years ago, my son Rick Hanson, which he manages the store now, but we got to thinking about some way of promoting at the River Festival, and so we decided we were going to have a jam session, and we went to the Arts and Humanities and asked them about that, and they thought, okay, that might work. So we were just going to have a jam session, and at that time we were working off of a gazebo, which was maybe 16 feet square, which is a very small area to be working with, and we had 24 bands, and each band had 12 minutes. Well, you had hopefully 3 minutes of being able to change the bands out, but if you're looking at 24 bands and well over 140, 150 musicians that trying to coordinate, it was a logistics nightmare, but it worked. And Rick and I put together the idea of, all right, let's have a big jam session on the night before the festival. And we started talking with the bands, and they said, well, we'd like to just bring our band. And, well, okay, that actually might be easier. And so we started looking at each individual bands. And so the first 5 or 6 years, we had 24 bands. Each band had 12 minutes. Well, the show was scheduled from 6 to 12, or 6 to 10 o'clock. Well, you can imagine how late we were running when you're working with that many musicians. And we were getting done around 11:20 at night instead of the 10 o'clock time. And we hadn't figured out yet of how to get the bands on and off as quick, and also to get the bands to understand that it's 12 minutes of performance. We need 3 minutes to change the bands out. So we did that for several years, but we were still hitting 11 o'clock, 11:15, and we started thinking about security and any of the things that can happen that late at night. So we reduced Festival Jam to 16 bands, which is still quite an art. Ryan, who's been here about 25 years, coordinates the stage work, moving the bands off and on. I've just got a great crew. I don't really have to do much of anything except be nervous for everybody because they're loose on it. But so we got it down to 16 bands, and the show starts at 6 o'clock and runs till 10. So we're generally done by, well, 10:15. That's kind of our goal, to do that. And as of this year, I think we had something between 14 and 16,000 people out in front and 16 bands, and it was remarkable how well the bands work with us. 12 minutes of music, 3 minutes to change out. Well, Ryan and crew, which are people that work here at Hanson Music, they're so efficient at it, they were changing bands out in less than a minute and a half. And so we ran ahead of schedule most of the evening, which once again is remarkable. And for the regional bands to be able to play in front of 12 to 14,000 people is just awesome. You know, the thrill of walking out there on stage and seeing that mass of people and how appreciative, you know, it's just a really big night. In the early days of festival, at the River Festival, we were a pre-festival event, and we talked them into having it part of the festival, and they started saying, okay, you needed a button or pay the regular admission fee on it. So we convinced them to make the festival, instead of a 3-day festival, the festival would start on Thursday with Festival Jam, which has just, I think the first year we had 2,850 people attend, which was huge. That was the first year, and you know, we were late getting advertising out on it. Well, the next year we were at 5,800 people, and each year it had grown over the next 5 years. And where now, probably over the last 15 years, we've always had minimum of 11,000 people, and that's just amazing. And the musicians that play, the great thing there is they play for the community. They don't get paid for playing. And they like to be out in front. They like the camaraderie backstage, being able to talk to somebody they hadn't talked to last year, or maybe somebody they hadn't seen for a couple of years. They're able to converse with them and get to know them again, and it's just a great festive time. I love seeing the expression on the face of any student. Most of my students now I teach are adults, but the ones that have never played an instrument before and play that first 1, 4, 5 chords, G, C, and D seventh, and I start teaching them how easy music is really to play. And you know, if you take G, C, and D seventh chord, or G, C, and D chord, 3 chords, you can play Wild Thing right off the bat. You know, but it's music. And when you hear bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum, they go, that look on their face, that big smile, like, I'm actually playing music. And that's my thrill. And we've just worked with so many different students. I love the fact of working with some of the young students and up through college students that are playing in jazz orchestra at school, whether it be college or in junior high. And I've had some students go on to state and do very well at state in the jazz combos, and that's one of my thrills. And I've got, right now, 3 of my students are working towards playing in the jazz band at school. And that's just a real thrill for me. That's quite an honor. That's all I can say. And I've had so many people. I go to the YMCA in the morning, and I had so many people. One of our former local congressmen did the thing like this when I walked in, and I got a big kick out of that. And I've had so many people come up to me and congratulate me, and I've had emails, texts from former students, and just made me really feel good. And I know the music store here, Hanson Music's had a big impact on the area and the regional area. And I've had, yeah, just to see that happen.